The untidy, litter-strewn storeroom of a central London restaurant. It was here in these cramped surroundings that one of the most dramatic criminal episodes to occur in Britain for many years was played out. For 5 days, 3 gunmen held 6 Italian restaurant managers hostage while they tried to bargain their escape from the police. London's Commissioner of Police, Sir Robert Mark, whose plan to foil the gunmen proved so successful, praised the way the hostages had behaved during their ordeal.
Absolutely magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. I think conditions in there were far worse than we thought they were. Because the room is much more confined and compressed than the impression you get from the things we were listening to.
What started as a simple robbery attempt developed into a kidnap and faced the British police with their first test in handling a situation involving hostages. Until then, they'd only formulated theories based on the experience of foreign police forces, and some of that experience was hardly encouraging. Here in Paris, for example, earlier this year, armed bank robbers seized 5 bank employees after a shootout with police and negotiated their getaway, together with $500,000 in ransom money. One of the gunmen and a bank clerk were also shot dead. There was a more successful conclusion to this bank raid in Milan last month. 2 gunmen took 17 hostages and threatened to kill them if their demands for ransom money and a getaway car were not met. But police ignored the threats, and after 8 hours, the gunmen surrendered and the hostages were released unharmed. With kidnappings for both political and criminal motives becoming increasingly frequent, it was only a matter of time before similar events came to Britain. London's drama began in the early hours of a Sunday morning at 8 Italian restaurants. This reconstruction shows what happened. After business on Saturday evening, the day's takings in each establishment are transferred to a briefcase and taken by each restaurant manager to a central collection point, in this case, the Spaghetti House in Knightsbridge. The amount of money involved was comparatively small, only £11,000, but it was enough to attract the interest of 3 men. The time, 1:45 on Sunday, September 28th. The managers in Knightsbridge were about to pool the cash when 3 armed men burst into the restaurant and demanded the money. One was a Nigerian, the other 2 West Indians. In the confusion that followed, one manager escaped and raised the alarm. The police arrived in minutes, and the gunmen, their retreat cut off, forced the 8 Italians downstairs into a basement storeroom. The room measured only 14 feet by 10 and had no windows. It contained various items of canned food and bottles of sauce stacked on metal shelves. In these narrow confines, the 11 men waited for police to react. But outside, the police refused to make any sudden moves. The build-up continued until hundreds of policemen, some of them marksmen, surrounded the building. 6:50 in the morning, 5 hours after the raid, and the Commissioner of London's Police, Sir Robert Mark, arrives to take overall charge of the operation. He decides his approach will be based on subtle psychology, not physical force. Meanwhile, in the storeroom, the gunmen make their first demands. Claiming they're from the Black Liberation Front, they ask for the release of 2 prisoners and an aircraft to fly them to the West Indies. The police find the prisoners have already served their sentences, but refuse both requests. Robert Mark is asked what reaction his stand has had on the gunmen.
So far, there's no reaction. We've told them that there is a senior officer awaiting any message they care to give. They've also been told that there will be no concessions. There will be no bargaining. I told you that they have been promised that if they come out of there without harming anybody, that they will not be harmed and they will be fairly treated.
So Robert, if you said in negotiations, are you now taking a strategy of waiting them out?
Well, as I said, the ball is in their court. We've told them quite plainly that they're not going anywhere.
Among the police team is a psychiatrist who will monitor all conversations with the gunman and advise the police on the mental state of the Italians' captors. Two senior police officers share the burden of talking to the gunman. One of them is Assistant Commissioner Wilford Gibson.
Some while.
Yes, we have contingency plans for dealing with this type of situation.
And this has been really a rather good opportunity to put it into effect and test it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, we test these plans continuously, as you're aware, but this is one of the few occasions when we've had to put it into operation as an actual event.
What size is the room?
We hope that everyone's going to get out safe, hostages and the gunmen, as far as we can make it. It's impossible to be certain of anything, but our arrangements are being made to try and achieve that end.
Is your tactic literally just waiting, sitting out there? Have you got something up your sleeve, which is we're going to see?
Well, you wouldn't really expect us to disclose what our tactics are going to be, sure.
Our tactics are determined by the demands of the gunmen. We're waiting for their move, their next move.
4:42, 15 hours since it began, and the first encouraging sign for the police. One of the hostages is allowed to leave because he's unwell. This gesture by the gunman is in return for a radio, which the police allow into the storeroom. In the long, suspenseful days that follow, the radio is to play a vital part. Through it, the gunmen hear only a confirmation of the firm but patient approach of the police outside the storeroom door. Day 2 of the siege, Monday, September 29th. As the police guard is changed, the stalemate continues. Conversations are now taking place through a hole drilled in the storeroom wall, and a microphone is lowered into a ventilator shaft to pick up and record the talks for analysis by the psychiatrist. Every new initiative by the police is thoroughly evaluated before it's tried. The introduction of outsiders into the negotiations, considered dangerous by some experts in this field, is decided on. The Italian Consul General, Mario Manca, is allowed to talk to the hostages in their own language. Afterwards, he talked to the waiting press.
I spoke with my countrymen twice, once this morning and one short while ago. I spoke to them through a hole in the wall of their storeroom. They requested my nationals were understandably nervous and worried, but not unduly so. As a matter of fact, I found them in rather better condition than one might expect, considering the ordeal they have been through.
Is there any panic at all down there?
No, not at all. No panic whatsoever.
And what are conditions like? Because it's a very small, stuffy room.
Well, the conditions are what you may guess. I mean, they are locked in a room which is about 12 feet by 16 feet, in which there is a scaffolding around with food. So, I mean, they are a bit cramped.
Did they ask for anything?
They asked for cigarettes, coffee, and cold water, which the police authority readily granted.
Now, you spoke to one of the gunmen. What did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
Well, I simply made to him an appeal. I mean, on behalf of my countrymen, that they were no use to him, but of course he thought otherwise.
And what's the next step? Is it a deadlock?
Well, there is no deadlock, in fact. I mean, the dialogue is still going on. There is still what you might call an exchange of views. I mean, the dialogue goes on, and I feel that as long as one speaks, he doesn't shoot.
But if the dialogue ends, I mean, what happens?
Well, I have no crystal ball.
But I mean,
Water, tea, coffee and cigarettes are allowed into the storeroom, mainly for the benefit of the hostages, but also as a gesture that might evoke some sympathetic response in the gunmen. With sanitary conditions now extremely unpleasant, the police also allow in a chemical toilet. The gunmen are now identified as Franklin Davis, a former bank robber, and two West Indian accomplices, Tony Munro and Wesley Dick. In their talks with the Italian Consul General, they offer to release a second hostage that evening if certain conditions are met. Assistant Commissioner Gibson briefs the press.
I've been down with the Italian Consulate General. Now, he has given an undertaking that his ambassador will telephone the Home Secretary, and as a condition of this, the three gunmen have agreed to release one of the hostages who is sick. They want to hear this on the 6 o'clock news, and if this can be done, they have undertaken to release one of the hostages.
6:20 in the evening. The gunmen keep their promise and release Pasquale Cinicola, who's taken to hospital. This is another minor breakthrough for the police. The beginnings, possibly, of a new or sympathetic relationship between the gunmen and their captives, which the police believe could be the key to a peaceful conclusion of the whole affair. Another day becomes another night, and the police grow cautiously more confident that their strategy is the right one. Another visitor is allowed in, Sister Yemeni of the Black Liberation Front. She spends half an hour talking to the gunman, but later the front dissociates itself from the gunman's actions. In doing so, it destroys all credibility in the gunman's claimed political motives and confirms the police view that this is simply a robbery that's gone wrong. Calm and optimistic, Commander Christopher Payne reports to the press on the third night of the siege.
Very little that I can add to the situation at the present time. We're still talking to gunmen. They've provided water and cigarettes, satisfied that they can survive. There's no change in their attitude at the present time. The situation is still calm. We are looking at all possible ways of bringing the thing to a speedy conclusion.
What do you mean by this?
Well, I obviously will not give you the details. I couldn't discuss the details of the sort of steps that we might take or steps we are considering. But all sorts of ways of bringing this to an end are being looked at constantly and reviewed in the light of any changes in the attitude of the gunmen or what they're saying.
Surely tonight you had a situation.
I see no reason, if in fact reason prevails in the minds of those in the room, why this should not come to a successful conclusion within a reasonable time without harm either to the hostages or the gunmen themselves.
What would you say is the condition of the mind of those in the room?
I think they're showing a certain determination at the moment, particularly the man we're speaking to.
This is the spokesman.
This is the spokesman. The man we mainly speak to, although we have spoken to the others.
Is this the Nigerian?
Yes.
Is it Frank Davis?
Davis.
Are the gunmen acting in a rational manner?
I would say that we've conducted all of our talks with them in a rational but firm manner, calm.
As the long vigil continues, the press themselves seek out more details about the leader of the gunmen, Franklin Davis. What kind of man is he? And how did people who knew him think he'd react to the prolonged siege? These were questions put to Davis's former prison mate, Doug McKinnon.
Well, I feel that if somebody that knows him, went down there, could maybe speak sense into him. But if somebody from authority spoke to him, it might get in his, give him a bug in the brain or something like that for him to do something silly. I would think it would be better somebody that has known him in the past, a relation perhaps, or somebody that sort of can speak his own sort of a language to him.
Do you think he'll kill the hostages?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he'll kill the hostages. I don't think so. Because I've been given this very careful thought. The reason I don't think he will kill the hostages is that he gave 2 of them up already, and if he was going to do anything, he wouldn't have given the two of them up.
Day 4, October 1st, the stalemate continues with the police patiently sticking to their wait-and-see tactics. How much longer can they go on waiting with no sign of progress?
Well, we can continue as long as it takes. This is what we will do.
We hear that there might in fact be an initiative on your side. So what kind of initiative can we expect from you?
We obviously have contingency plans for any eventuality, but at the moment we are dealing with this as it unfolds.
So will you just wait here until they make the first move?
There is one and only one significant change in the position since this morning, and that is that one of the hostages is reported by them to be unwell. And I think you ought to know that the Consul General offered to receive this hostage personally if they would release him. They declined his offer, but invited the Consul General to replace the hostage. And this the Consul General very gallantly offered to do. But I refused to allow it.
Why, sir?
Because I have no desire to place yet another hostage at risk.
But how much longer can the police wait outside here for them to make the first move?
We can wait indefinitely.
And will you?
3 in the afternoon, and what the police later described as a turning point in the affair. After 86 hours, the monitored conversations in the storeroom reveal a new, more friendly attitude between gunmen and hostages. What the psychiatrists predicted would happen is happening. It's called transference, the growth of a closer, more sympathetic relationship between captors and captives, because both are sharing the same hardships. Significantly, this is the first day the gunmen make no demands. Commander Payne believes the longer the siege goes on, the better the rapport will become.
It's quite possible. I think this is a phenomenon that's happened elsewhere. It has the one advantage of lessening the tension, and thereby lessening the danger, I would have thought, to harm coming to the hostages. In fact, we take the view that the longer this goes on, there is a less likelihood of harm unless something precipitate happens.
But what I was going to ask is there a continuation of that? Does it get better after X number of days, or in this case, and then does it start to go downhill?
Well, we have a lot of experience of a long-term hostage situation like this. We can only be guided by what's happened in other countries. I would like to speculate that this would happen in this particular case. If the hostages get in extremely distressed condition, a situation where, a dangerous sort of situation, then obviously we've got to consider the next steps we're going to take. I mean, we are pursuing a line at the moment. I don't think we're going to do any deals with these criminals. I would say, from their attitude to present, there is an element of passion in their nature, despite the fact that they haven't given in they haven't surrendered. They have released 2 hostages. One would hope that they would release any other hostages who were in a distressed condition. But we're optimistic that reason will prevail. I think this is what we're really looking for with the 3 gunmen. Reason will prevail in their minds. They'll realise the hopelessness of the situation, that they can't possibly come out. It probably is worth facing music when they do come out, rather than put their own position far worse by harming someone. This is what we're really looking for.
While the siege has been going on, other police departments have been working on different aspects of the case. The police believe that if they could provide evidence over the radio that the robbery investigations were bearing fruit, the gunmen might become so demoralized they'd give up. At 2 in the afternoon on October 2nd, detectives raid a club in Rupert Street in London's Soho district. The club is known to have been frequented by Davis. 2 men are arrested and charged with conspiracy. Meanwhile, Assistant Commissioner Gibson, in what is to be one of the last regular reports to the press, confirms his colleague's earlier opinion. A new mood prevails in the storeroom.
We feel at the moment that the rapport between the hostages and the gunmen is very good indeed. It really is the absolute standard pattern. The peaks and troughs that we talk about are things that obviously must occur. I mean, imagine yourself, you were confined in a small room with a lot of other people over a tremendous period of time, and the stresses and strains that these three men are obviously under, you must get these variations of behaviour. The only thing is, it's not there. The rapport is being established, the period of time is extending. It's very difficult to turn around and shoot people when you've been living in close proximity to them for weeks. The most dangerous period in any of these situations is usually in the first 24, 48 hours.
At 9 in the evening, news of the Clubland arrests and conspiracy charges is broadcast and heard on the gunman's radio. As expected, the men in the storeroom are demoralized. The end cannot now be far away. At 4 in the morning on October 3rd, 5 days and 2 hours after it began, it's all over. In a sudden flurry of activity, the ambulances arrive. In the basement, Commander Payne listens to Davis announcing the hostages are coming out.
Still three.
Minutes later, they file through the restaurant doors to the waiting ambulances. Weary, dirty, but remarkably fit, considering the length and nature of their ordeal. But the drama is not quite over. The two West Indians surrender, but Davis shoots himself in the stomach and has to be rushed to hospital. But was the broadcast of the previous night's arrests really so important? Deputy Assistant Commissioner Colin Woods.
Well, any signs of police efficiency has got to be bad news.
Would you say that was the final straw, or do you think it was just a matter of time?
Well, this is a matter of guesswork. I'm sure it was bad news. It was good news for us, and we thought it could very well lead to this affair. That was our belief. And although I really can't say, I'm sure it must have had that sort of effect.
For the hostages, home at last after 130 hours. Their version of events finally confirms the wisdom of the police strategy. Renata Nestor's account showed that transference had become a reality.
But we were not expecting, of course, you know. I think it's a miracle anyway. It's a miracle. This is a...
When you finally said goodbye to them, did you? What sort of farewell did you have?
No, we gave a beautiful, a wonderful farewell. We shake hands, not only me, but all the others as well. We kiss them, and we found that there's a lot. They are also very humanitarian people. It's a human all over the place. It doesn't matter how hard is life for a man or individually, but humanity is always there somewhere, maybe deep, but somewhere. Something is there. And I think this is that was my fate. Yeah.
Could you say that at the end you actually liked the men who'd held you prisoner for several days?
I do, yes. Yes. At the end, yes. At the end, yes, because at the same time we were sorry ourselves for them, as much them for us.
So, as the clearing up got underway and neighbouring shops reopened for business, the police could feel justly pleased. Their theory had been totally vindicated in practice. The Spaghetti House siege had been a textbook operation and could now become the model for many other countries.